In the vast expanse of the galaxy, there was no prey too challenging, no world too remote for Captain Zorgax and his crew of alien hunters. Their reputation preceded them, fearsome predators always seeking the next thrilling quarry. Earth had long been on Zorgax's radar. Intel reports suggested this blue-green planet harbored extremely cunning and resilient apex species, the ultimate test for his hunting prowess. "Captain, we've entered Earth's orbit," announced Thrazix, Zorgax's hulking gray-skinned second-in-command. "Scans show a promising hunting ground in the planet's northern hemisphere." Zorgax leaned forward in his command chair, his reptilian eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Excellent. Prepare the dropship and assemble the hunting party." The alien vessel, a sleek behemoth of a ship outfitted with advanced cloaking technology and a formidable arsenal, descended through the atmosphere, locking onto the unspoiled wilderness of a place the humans called Canada. Within minutes, the hunter crew assembled in the drop bay, a menagerie of alien species united by their lust for the hunt, each one armed to the teeth with blasters, plasma blades, and net guns. Led by Zorgax, they boarded the dropship, eager for their boots to hit the ground. As the hatch hissed open, they stepped into a world of towering evergreens and rugged, mist-shrouded mountains. The air was crisp and laced with unfamiliar scents. A savage, untamed land. Zorgax took a deep breath, savoring the aroma of damp foliage. "Magnificent," he rumbled, his massive antlered head sweeping to survey the surroundings. "The humans certainly know how to preserve prime hunting grounds." Thrazix consulted his wrist scanner. Motion signatures detected. Large carnivores, felines, and ursines. He grinned, baring pointed obsidian teeth. Prey worthy of pursuit. Zorgax hefted his pulse rifle. "Then let the hunt begin. Today we bag trophies none of our kind have claimed before. By nightfall, we feast." The hunting party spread out into the underbrush, their camouflage tech shimmering as they blended seamlessly with the foliage. Hearts racing with predatory glee, they disappeared into the wilderness, intent on finding the most challenging game this strange planet had to offer. But little did these alien hunters know, they were not the only predators lurking in these woods, and the eyes that watched their every move did not belong to a beast, but a man forged by this very wilderness, as cunning and lethal as anything the galaxy could spawn. His name was Talon, and he had a very different sort of hunt in mind. Deep within the ancient forest, Zorgax and his crew of alien hunters stalked through the undergrowth, their advanced tech allowing them to pass like ghosts amid the towering pines. The thrill of the hunt sang in their blood, spurring them ever onward. Thrazix's scanner pinged with a proximity alert. "Captain, I'm picking up movement 30 clicks ahead," he reported, excitement edging his gravelly voice. A large male feline. Solitary and in its prime. Zorgax's eyes narrowed, his predatory focus sharpening. "Lead the way." Thrazix set off at a loping run, his muscular bulk eating up the distance. The other hunters fell into formation behind him, Zorgax bringing up the rear, plasma rifle at the ready. The forest thinned into a glade, and there, crouched at the edge of a gurgling stream, was their prey. A magnificent cougar, its tawny coat dappled with sunlight. It lapped the clear water, unaware of the danger that lurked downwind. Zorgax motioned his crew to fan out, stealthy as shadows. They encircled the big cat, blocking any routes of escape. Zorgax lined up his rifle's sights, savoring the anticipation, then squeezed the trigger. The plasma bolt seared through the air, striking the cougar broadside. It convulsed, a yowl of agony echoing off the pines, then crumpled to the ground, the light fading from its amber eyes. The hunters converged on the fallen feline, their triumphant cries rending the forest calm. But as Zorgax stood over the magnificent creature, he felt a twinge of dissatisfaction. The kill had been too quick, too easy, no different than shooting Xanthibian pond slugs. Where was the challenge he craved? Further hunting forays proved much the same. The crew bagged a massive grizzly, a pack of wolves, and a moose bull with an impressive rack, all struck down with casual ease by their superior alien tech. The sport of it was beginning to pall. As they regrouped at the drop site, Zorgax's frustration was palpable. "These Earth creatures are proving to be less formidable than intel suggested," he growled. "I came seeking the ultimate test of my skills, not target practice." Phrazix looked up from where he was field dressing the cougar. "Perhaps we need to venture deeper into the wilderness," he suggested. "Seek out the more elusive prey." "No," Zorgax said decisively. "We have the scent now. We lure out bigger game." He ran his clawed fingers along his rifle. "We've been too passive. It's time to up the stakes." And so the alien hunters returned to the fray with a new strategy. They blasted trees, set fires, caused a tumult designed to flush out the wiliest and most aggressive beasts. Soon the tranquil forest echoed with the sounds of carnage as creatures of fang and claw were driven from cover only to be met with plasma fire. The hunters reveled in the slaughter, laughing as they waded through the charred and bleeding remnants of Earth's mightiest predators. But amid this frenzy, they were being watched. High on a ridgeline, Talon crouched motionless, camouflaged by lichen model boulders. Through his scope, he observed the alien's every move, his craggy face betraying no hint of emotion. As a park ranger, a Green Beret veteran, and an avid outdoorsman, Talon knew this land like no other. He'd picked up the alien ship's entry, and now bore witness to the hunter's cruel sport. His jaw tightened imperceptibly as rage simmered below his stony exterior. The hunt was about to change. Dusk settled over the wilderness, the shadows of the towering pines bleeding together into pools of impenetrable darkness. The alien hunters, flush with the day's triumphs, made camp in a clearing littered with the carcasses of their kills. As his crew fell to butchering the meat, roasting cuts over plasma fires, and boasting of their exploits, Zorgax stood apart, scanning the tree line. An unamiable unease prickled at the edges of his awareness. "Captain." Phrazix lumbered over, a haunch of seared grizzly flesh in his fist. Purple blood dribbled down his chin. "You haven't partaken in the spoils. What troubles you?" Zorgax's throat sacs tensed and relaxed, a sign of agitation. "This world, there is an energy here, a presence that watches." Phrazix chuckled, a deep, phlegmy sound. "You imagine ghosts, Captain. We've crushed every creature that has crossed our path. What on this primitive planet could possibly challenge us?" As if in answer, a whisper whine cut the air, so brief it might have been mistaken for the buzz of a night insect. But Zorgax knew the sound of a projectile. Phrazix's eyes flew wide. A hand flew to his neck where a dart quivered. He took one shuddering breath, then collapsed, his massive bulk crashing to the forest floor. "Ambush!" Zorgax roared. "To arms, to arms!" The camp exploded into pandemonium. The hunters snatched up weapons, swinging them wildly into the darkness. More darts whistled from the shadows, finding their marks with uncanny precision. One by one, Zorgax's crew fell like toppled oaks until only he remained standing. He whirled, pulse rifle chattering, scourging the perimeter with plasma fire. The forest erupted with showers of splintered wood and sizzling foliage. But for his efforts, his foe remained unseen. A heartbeat later, pain blossomed in Zorgax's shoulder. He glanced down to see a dart protruding from his armored hide. Even as his rifle clattered from slackening claws, his vision was already dimming. He slumped to his knees, fighting the encroaching blackness. The last thing he saw before oblivion claimed him was a figure emerging from the night-cloaked trees, a creature that walked upright like his own kind but was unmistakably human. Zorgax awoke to a throbbing skull and the crackling of a fire. He found himself propped against a pine trunk, his hands and feet bound with some sort of organic fiber cord. His crew sprawled nearby in similar restraints, groggy and disarmed. Beyond the firelight, something moved. A silhouette that was all too familiar. The human stepped into the flickering glow, a primitive projectile weapon cradled in his arms. "What is the meaning of this?" Zorgax snarled, "Release us at once." The man regarded him with eyes as cold and sharp as flint. "You come to my world. Slaughter our animals for sport with your fancy weapons. Did you really think there would be no reckoning?" Zorgax strained against his bonds, muscles coiling with fury. "You dare lecture me? I've hunted 1,000 worlds, claimed trophies your simple mind couldn't fathom." The man smiled, a mere twist of his lips. "Not trophies. Victims. Here on Earth, we have a name for those who kill for pleasure. Monsters." He turned then, slinging his rifle and melting back into the forest. Over his shoulder he said, "When the sun rises, I'll return your weapons. You have until nightfall to leave this place, and never return. If you fail to heed this warning, your lives are forfeit." Then he was gone, vanished into the wilderness, as if he were part of it. Only the whispering of the pines overhead and the mournful cry of a distant wolf broke the stillness. Zorgax glared into the dancing flames, as if he could make them yield up his foe. His heart's hammered in impotent rage. To be hunted like common prey, restrained like a snared beast, it was an insult he would not soon forgive. At his side, Thrazix stirred, shaking off the lingering effects of the tranquilizer. "Captain," he grunted, "what are your orders?" Zorgax smiled, a slash of fangs in the firelight. "We leave at dawn." Thrazix blinked in surprise, but nodded his assent. "As you command." But Zorgax wasn't finished. In a whisper that was half growl, he said, "And then we return with the ship's full armament and cleanse this world of all human life. Starting with him." Dawn broke over the primordial forest, pale light filtering through the evergreen boughs. Birds trilled their ageless songs, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded in the night. True to his word, the human, Talon, had returned the aliens' weapons. They lay in a neat pile at the edge of the camp, undamaged. A show of honor, or of contempt. Captain Zorgax and his crew, now freed from their bonds, wasted no time in rearming themselves. They spoke little as they checked charges and calibrated sights. The shame of their capture was a palpable weight, a collective wound to their pride that could only be salved by blood. As Thrazix ran diagnostics on his plasma rifle, he cast a wary eye to the surrounding forest. "I don't like this, Captain," he muttered. "That human, he's no ordinary prey. He bested us all." Zorgax's eyes narrowed, fixing on some distant point in the trees. "He caught us unawares. It won't happen again." Thrazix shifted uneasily. "Perhaps we should heed his warning. Leave this world and seek sport elsewhere." Zorgax rounded on his subordinate, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. "Flee, like cowering kitlings. We are the greatest hunters in the galaxy. No prey dictates terms to us, least of all some primitive bite." He stepped into Thrazix's space, looming over the hulking warrior. "We will find this Talon. We will make him rue the day he dared to cross us. And then we will burn this world to cinders. Are we clear?" Thrazix dropped his gaze, shoulders hunching in submission. "Yes, Captain. Forgive my doubt." "Good." Zorgax turned to address his crew. "Move out. Spread formation. I want that human found." They trekked through the wilderness, scanning for any sign of their adversary. But Talon's trail, if it existed at all, eluded even their advanced tracking tech. It was as if the forest itself shielded him, swallowing all trace of his passing. Hours ground by, frustration mounting with each fruitless click covered. The hunter's initial fervor cooled into a grim, plodding determination. Thrazix paused at the crest of a rise, consulting his scanner. "Still no sign, Captain. It's like hunting a ghost." Zorgax's throat sacs pulsed in agitation. This human was proving a far worthier adversary than he'd anticipated. He was about to order another sweep when a high, piercing whistle cut the air. The hunters froze, eyes darting, seeking the source. A heartbeat later, a massive log, studded with sharpened stakes, came swinging down from the canopy. It scythed through their ranks, impaling 2 hunters and sending the rest diving for cover. Plasma fire erupted as the aliens blasted at the log, the trees, anything that might conceal their attacker. But no further assault came. The forest fell silent once more, save for the agonized groans of the injured hunters. Zorgax emerged from behind a boulder, seething. This Talon fought like no prey he had ever known. He used the environment as a weapon, striking without warning and fading away like mist. It was, Zorgax realized with a mix of rage and grudging respect, how he himself would hunt. The day wore on in a tense, nerve-shredding game of cat and mouse. Talon was a master of guerrilla tactics, striking hard and fast, and always on his own terms. Traps, snares, jury-rigged bombs crafted from the hunter's own discarded tech. He employed them all with deadly ingenuity. By dusk, Zorgax's crew had been reduced to a battered, demoralized handful. "It's no use, Captain," Phrase expanded, nursing the shattered arm. "He knows this territory. He has the advantage." Zorgax glared at his second, eyes smoldering. "He is one man. We are the galaxy's apex predators. We will not be bested by some feral primitive." But even as the words left his jaws, doubt gnawed at him. This world, this human, was unlike anything they had ever faced. Talon had turned the nature of the hunt on its head, and now, for the first time, Zorgax felt something akin to fear. Night fell, shrouding the forest in impenetrable darkness. The hunters, their tech all but exhausted, huddled in a tight, watchful knot, starting at every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaf. Phrazix, his eyes haunted, looked to his captain. "Zorgax, we cannot win this. Let us return to the ship, leave this accursed planet behind." For a long, tense moment, Zorgax said nothing. Then, at last, he nodded. "Very well. We return to the ship, but this is not over." Phrazix looked as if he wanted to argue, but thought better of it. Instead, he gestured to the remaining crew and began to limp back the way they'd come, following the faint signal of their landing craft. Zorgax brought up the rear, his every sense straining for any hint of Talon's presence. But the forest kept its secrets, and they reached their destination without further incident. As the hunters stumbled into the clearing where they'd left, the alien hunters stopped dead in their tracks, staring in disbelief at the smoldering ruins of their dropship. The once sleek craft was now a twisted, blackened hulk, its hull perforated with blast holes. Smoke curled from its gutted interior, carrying the acrid stench of melted circuitry. "Impossible," Phrazix breathed, his voice trembling. "How could a human do this?" Zorgax said nothing, his eyes riveted on the destruction. In that moment, he understood with brutal clarity just how badly he had underestimated his foe. Talon wasn't just a skilled hunter. He was a warrior, cunning and resourceful, with a mastery of tactics that rivaled Zorgax's own. A twig snapped at the edge of the clearing. The hunters whirled, weapons raised, to find Talon himself stepping from the shadows. He cradled a long black rifle, an unfamiliar design that exuded menace. "Going somewhere?" he asked mildly, as if inquiring about the weather. Zorgax snarled, baring his fangs. You've brought your own doom upon you, human. When my ship traces our beacon and finds what you've done, they'll burn your world to ash." Talon smiled, a cold, mirthless thing. "That beacon, the one I stripped out of your shuttle and tossed into the ocean 100 miles from here. Good luck with that." The implications crashed over Zorgax like a frigid wave. No beacon, no rescue. They were stranded on this primitive world, at the mercy of this impossible human. Phrazix, his tone desperate, stepped forward. "Please, we surrender. We'll leave your world, never return. Just let us go." Talon regarded the cowering alien, his expression unreadable. For a long, tense moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, Talon lowered his rifle. "Go," he said softly. "Take your wounded and go. Build a new ship from the wreckage. But heed this warning. If you or your kind ever return to Earth, I'll be waiting. And I won't be alone." Thrazix sagged with relief, but Zorgax bristled with fury. To be shown mercy by prey, to slink away like a beaten dog, it was more than his pride could bear. With a roar of pure rage, he lunged at Talon, claws extended, fangs bared. Talon reacted with blinding speed, bringing his rifle up and around in a vicious arc. The butt cracked across Zorgax's jaw, sending him sprawling. Before the stunned captain could regain his feet, he found himself staring down the rifle's yawning bore. Talon's finger tightened on the trigger. "Last chance, Zorgax," he said, his voice as hard as iron. "Leave, or die." In that instant, staring into those cold human eyes, Zorgax saw his death. He saw the folly of his hubris, the arrogance that had led him to this fate. With a shuddering breath, he lowered his gaze in submission. "We will go," he grated out, the words like shards of glass in his throat. Talon held him pinned a moment longer, then stepped back, the rifle never wavering. Wise choice. Under Talon's watchful gaze, the hunters gathered their wounded and their dead. They salvaged what they could from the wrecked dropship, then began the long, limping trek into the night. Zorgax was the last to leave. At the edge of the clearing, he paused, looking back at the silent, implacable figure of Talon. A grudging respect warred with the bitter ashes of his defeat. "This isn't over, human," he rasped. "You've made an enemy today." Talon just smiled that cold, haunting smile. "You wouldn't be the first, or the last. Happy hunting, Zorgax, and pray you never see me again." With that, he melted back into the forest, as swift and silent as a ghost, leaving Zorgax to ponder the bitter lesson he had learned. Earth was not a world to be trifled with, and humans were the most dangerous game of all.